Assalamu alaikum. And to our non-Muslim guests, welcome. So I don't know how much time I have, but I'm just going to talk until I'm told to stop. So the title of my discussion with you guys this afternoon is the elements of transitioning, or the elements of transition, trusting your process. So I'm going to give you guys as much as I possibly can during the time that I believe that time is valuable for me as well as for you. So the time that I spend with you guys, I want it to be of substance and with purpose. So I'm going to just kind of jump right in. I'm going to begin my talk with a quote from Polonius, if you guys are familiar with Hamlet, Shakespeare. Polonius, he said, "This above all, to thine own self, be true. And it must follow, as the night the day, thou canst not be false to any man." There is nothing in life that is supposed to stay the same. Nothing. Evolution is a sign of life, and life is a sign of health. Wherever you have life, you're going to have evolution, and wherever you have health, you're going to have life. If I say something that you disagree with, please stop me. I'm all for engagement. There's a verse in the Quran. I like to use Quranic references when I speak so that as Muslims, even though you hear the person talking, there's always this level of comfort that there's a reference to your religious principles and values, as any Islamic speaker should, or any religious speaker should, make references to their religion. I think a lot of times in our attempt to become more academic, we kind of move away from the religious teachings because we kind of make this distinction between being academic and being religious, and almost like salt water and fresh water, the two should never mix. I'm of the belief or the philosophy that, all of your information should be rooted in your faith, period. I don't care how much of an academic you believe you are, all of your information and everything that you study, everything that you digest, everything that you believe should be connected to your faith system. Don't deviate from that. There's a verse in the Quran where Allah says, or God says, وَالْبَلَدُ الطَّيِّبُ يَخْرُجُ نَبَاتُهُ بِإِذْنِ رَبِّي وَالَّذِي خَبُثَ لَا يَخْرُجُ إِلَّا نَكِدًا. He's given a metaphor. He said, and وَالْبَلَدُ الطَّيِّبُ, the good land, produces its produce, produces its fruits and vegetables, its vegetation, بِإِذْنِ رَبِّي, by the permission of its Lord. There's no limit to the amount of produce it will push out. He said, وَالَّذِي خَبُثَ, and the land that is infertile, the land that is unhealthy, لَا يَخْرُجُ إِلَّا نَكِدًا, that the fruits and the vegetation will only be produced or will only grow sparsely, scarcely, showing you that wherever there is health, there is life. And wherever there is a lack of health, there is a lack of life. Some of us, unfortunately, we associate complacency with authenticity. Please, by all means, take notes. All right? Some of us, unfortunately, we associate complacency with authenticity, which is a farce. It's not real, because we say that I am the same, therefore I'm real. Right? You hear people say this all the time in the inner cities. We pride ourselves on never changing, always being the same. I ain't never changed, right? Call a crib, same number, same hood, it's all good. No. We associate complacency with authenticity. And that is a farce that is used to assuage the consciousness of the one who basks in their own ignorance. We revel in our ignorance, and we give life to the philosophy that ignorance is bliss. All right, a lack of growth is a sign of death. We have to learn how to check those beliefs and those philosophies that we bring with us from whatever cultural experiences we had prior to coming in contact with Islam, whether you converted to Islam or you were born into Islam. All right? We have to learn how to check those philosophies at the door. A lack of growth is a sign of death. The only thing that doesn't grow is something that is dead. So if you pride yourself on being the same out of all of these years that went by, you ain't never changed, you still the same, then that's a sign of your own demise. Somewhere along the line, you lost sense of yourself. You lost sense of yourself. There's a culture, and even the Prophet ﷺ, he made reference to this. He said, مثل البيت الذي يذكر الله فيه والبيت الذي لم يذكر الله فيه كمثل الحي والميت. He said the example of the home in which God is remembered and the home in which God is not remembered is like life and death. So he gave a reference. There is a prophetic reference to that. Meaning the homes in which Allah is not remembered, God is not remembered in those homes, then those homes are dead. It is representative of death. And the homes in which God is remembered is representative of life. You're remembering Allah, your iman, your faith is growing. There's life there. All right? And he said that, we should pray our sunnah prayers in our home, right? So that we don't turn our homes into graveyards. You don't turn your home into a grave. لا تجعلوا بيوتكم قبورا. Don't turn your homes into graves. Pray in your homes, meaning the supererogatory, the extra prayer. So, you guys following me so far? Yeah. So give me about 3 points that I've established so far. Yes.
If you're not growing, you're dead.
Okay. A lack of growth is a sign of death. What else? Go for it.
We mistake complacency with authenticity.
We conflate authenticity with complacency. That as long as I'm the same, I'm authentic, I'm real. Right.
Evolution is great.
Evolution is great. Evolution is a sign of life. Wherever there's life, there's growth. There's evolution.
Nothing stays the same.
Nothing stays the same. That's a hard pill to swallow. Nothing stays the same. All right, cool. So you guys are still alive. You're with me. There's life in the room. All right. There's a culture of superficiality that is plaguing the Muslim community. I'm almost positive the Christian community as well. There's a culture of superficiality that is plaguing the Muslim community today, which is just a microcosm of the larger culture that encompasses us, which allows us to deflect the reality of who and what we are, perpetuating the philosophy that ignorance is bliss. Social media has contributed to that because if you let social media tell that everybody's on social media living their best life, meanwhile, you're one paycheck away from being homeless, one paycheck away from being broke, but everybody living their best life on social media. Let them tell it. Right? That is a culture of superficiality that is creeping into our religion. Our religion demands from us as Muslims that we be authentic. Why do you think weaves and fake hair and fake nails and fake eyelashes and gap in the teeth and tattoos and gold for men and all of these things in our religion is haram? So that we can remain authentic. The exact way that God created us. If God wanted you to have long hair down to your shoulders, he would have gave you that. You don't go out and buy somebody else's hair and change the image that Allah gave to you. He gave you that image for a reason. Enjoy that. Stand in your authentic space. And that's a lesson that one of the things that we're going to talk about. But there's a culture of superficiality that is plaguing the Islamic community today, unfortunately, we're just a microcosm of the larger community that encompasses us. And it allows us to deflect and to dismiss and move away from the reality of who and what we are. There is emphasis in the Quran and in the Sunnah related to elevating the awareness of oneself, which allows us to engage the world around us in a more authentic and holistic way. Muslims should not be phony. Because if your character is phony, then that means that there are things that are going on in your life that allow you to feel comfortable being phony. And please do not think that fake hair, fake nail, all pun intended. Please do not think that wearing fake hair, fake nails, fake this, fake that. Don't believe that that does not have some type of impact on your character. Don't think that you can wear fake hair, right? Fake eyelashes, everything about you fake, and it's not going to trickle down into the way that you interact with the world around you. You just as phony as the hair that is on your hair. I'm just being honest with you. We can't separate the two. They are in fact interconnected. Because if you are so superficial to put something that does not belong to you on you to make people view you a different way or to make yourself feel better about yourself, then that says a lot about your personality. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that if you knew what I knew, you would laugh less and cry more. What are the implications of this comment? He said, "Lo ta'lamu ma a'lam." If you knew what I knew, you would laugh less and cry more. That means that there was a certain degree of consciousness, of awareness that Prophet Muhammad had that afforded him a deeper understanding of the world around him than those who don't have access to that level of consciousness. Life is 90-10. Life is 90-10. 10% what happens to you, 90% how you respond to it. What does that mean for us as Muslims? That means that most of the things that happen to us in our lives, we have no control over. The only thing that we have absolute control over is how we respond to the things that happen to us. I'll give you some reference from the Quran and from the Sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Ajaban li amrul mu'min. Amruhu kulluhu khair." It is amazing, the affair of the believer. His affair is all good. In asabathu sarra, shakarallah fakana khayran lahu. If some prosperity comes to him in his life, then he is grateful, and that is better for him. Wa in asabathu darra, sabara fakana khayran lahu. And if some adversity comes to him in his life, then he is patient with it, and that is better for him. So if you notice in both situations, whether in prosperity or adversity, you have no control over that. The only thing that you can control is what? How you respond to it. The believer, when he's tested with some calamity, some adversity, some misfortune, he's patient. He has no control over the calamity, but what he does have control over is how he responds to it. If some good, some prosperity, some fortune come to him, then he is grateful to God. He expresses his gratitude to God. He has no control over it. Sometimes God blesses us for reasons that are beyond what we could understand. Don't believe the hype that God is blessing you because you're a good Muslim. No, God is blessing you because it was already decreed for you to have what you are getting, whether you are a good Muslim or not a good Muslim. He's going to give it to you anyway. You understand? Sometimes we get, so self-absorbed. Oh, Allah is blessing me, so I'm going to do more. No, Allah is blessing you because He's merciful, He's compassionate, He's generous. You understand? That whether you were a good believer, a good Muslim or not, that doesn't change who Allah is and what He has decreed for you one iota. Allah's still going to give it to you. But we are responsible for us and how we respond to the things that come at us. The more you work on developing yourself and your spiritual awareness and consciousness, the more healthy your interaction with the world around you becomes. The world is not going to consider your feelings. The world is not going to consider you and everything that you got going on in your life. The world is what it is. It's a cold place. The only thing that you can do is begin to work on you so that you can have a more healthy, holistic, authentic interaction with the world that is around you. You guys following me? So let me stop. Reiterate to some of the things that we just discussed. Give me back what I gave you. Yes.
You said that what happens to you, 90% of it is how you respond, and 10% of it is what happens to you.
And the 10% is because you have no control over it. The only thing that you have control over is how you're going to react to it. You don't have control over the things that come at you. But what you do have control over is how you respond to those things. Yes, very good.
I just have a quick question. The 10% and 90%, that's from where?
What do you mean? The quote itself?
Yes, the quote.
It's from a guy by the name of Andrew Smith. Yes. They use it in psychology. Yes. Go for it.
Does this that this deen is marked by, or the Muslim should have a mark of awareness and consciousness, that it's opposite of the superficiality that's seeped into the deen. We should have, that's when he said that if you knew what I knew, you would cry more, laugh less and cry more.
Right.
So that we should have this character of being aware and conscious instead
Right.
of being entertained.
There you go. Right? Instead of, reveling in our ignorance, we should want to be more conscious, want to be more woke. Yes.
No, I'm looking for something doesn't mean because you are a good Muslim or a bad Muslim. That's what Allah has for you.
There you go. Your actions don't change the decree of God. What God has decreed for you to have, what Allah has decreed for you to have, you're going to get it anyway, whether you're a good Muslim or not a good Muslim. Now, people ask, well, how do I know if I'm being tested or I'm being punished? That all depends on you. If you are a good Muslim doing exactly what Allah demands of you, then it's a test. And if you are being disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and living your best life, disregarding the commandments of Allah, then it's a punishment. And even a punishment is a test. Because the punishment is supposed to bring you back to Allah. All right? Somebody else had their hand up. Yes?
If some prosperity comes to you, then be grateful and appreciative. And then if a test or something bad befalls you, be grateful and appreciative.
Or be patient. Be patient. Right. Very good. You guys are woke. All right. So the more you work on developing yourself and your spiritual awareness and consciousness, the more healthy your interaction with the world around you become. The Prophet's interaction with the world around him was a reflection of his own refinement and subsequent evolution rather than the consideration of the world around him. At times, he was surrounded by chaos. When you go back and you look into the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you will see in both Mecca as well as in Medina, there were times in his life when he was surrounded by complete chaos. Chaos. We're talking about a nation of people who used to go around the Kaaba, circumambulate the Kaaba completely naked. We're talking about a nation of people who used to bury their daughters alive. We're talking about a nation of people, as Aisha said, the immorality, that, interaction between male and female were 4 types. The hadith is in Sahih al-Bukhari. That a woman would sleep with multiple men and then just decide, you're the husband. That was going on in, pre-Islamic Arabia. He was surrounded by all of this, right? The idolatry. So there were times Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was surrounded by chaos and dysfunction from idolatry, which breeds its own brand of spiritual decadence, to hypocrites and their treachery against Islam and the Muslim community, to the immorality as depicted by Aisha, to Islam being in the infant stages and Prophet Muhammad having to be the stability of the community because most of the people were still new Muslims. Their faith hadn't yet developed. All right, to the personal attacks on his physical person and the defamation of his character. And when a man is confronted with all of these elements, when a person is confronted with all of these elements, they will either consume him completely, causing him to compromise his authentic self and space. When I say authentic space, I'm talking about the space wherein lies your authentic self. Your authentic space where you are allowed to be who you authentically are without compromise. So you begin to compromise that until you become exactly what you hate. This is why it's dangerous to hate something, because usually you become what you hate. So in this society that we live in, sometimes when we step out of our doors, we have to become exactly like the society that we live in. Some of us in the mosque, in the masjid, we're very nice people. But when we go back to some of the environments that we live in, we have to be a completely different person. We become the exact thing and the exact people that we hate. So the point is, as you begin to work on yourself, you learn how to resist. You learn how to resist the pressures that are, around you. So when a person is confronted with these elements, they will either consume him completely, causing him to compromise his authentic space, wherein lies his authentic self, until he becomes the exact same thing that he hates. This is called the ask phenomenon, ASCH. Phenomenon, named after psychologist Solomon Asch, who performed a series of experiments that proved that people have an innate tendency to conform to social pressure. He found that people conform because they do not want to be viewed as peculiar. We don't want to be seen as the oddball, right? When in fact Islam tells us to revel in the fact that we are strangers. The Prophet ﷺ even said, "Tuba lil ghuraba," glad tidings for the stranger. We should enjoy and, revel in the fact that we are different. Different. But some of us just can't handle that type of pressure. All right? He found that people conform because they don't want to be viewed as peculiar or generally believe that other people are actually correct. Some people actually change who they are to be like everybody else because they believe genuinely that everybody else, what they're doing is right. And this makes us unnoticeable because if two people are the same, one of you is irrelevant. This makes us unnoticeable because as I was reading the article, it says like when you travel from city to city, right? They're all cities and you feel different in each and every city. Each and every city has something particular about it, something unique about it that brings out a certain feeling in you when you visit that city. This is because cities don't compete with one another to be like each other. And this is why from city to city you go to, it stands out. It's noticeable. Whether you go to Dubai or you go to LA or you go to New York, you go wherever. Each city has something unique. It doesn't try to be like another city. Human beings, we don't necessarily stand out or have that type of profound impact on people because we're too busy trying to be like everybody else. Too busy trying to be just like everybody else. So how many people have you come in contact with who just upon meeting them, they had such a profound impact on you because they were so noticeable, so authentic? I mean, within the last month, how many people can you say that you've come across that has really impacted you like that because of the authenticity of who they were? Very few. Very few. So, in the case of the Prophet ﷺ, he was able to resist all of these different elements going on around him without allowing them to compromise his authentic self. Allah tells us in the Quran, "Idfa' billati hiya ahsan," repel evil with what is better, meaning don't succumb, don't become like it, do the opposite. When you find negative energy, you repel it with positive energy. All right? And this was actually an incident that played out with Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, who was the close companion of Prophet Muhammad. And one day he was sitting and a guy walked up to him and began insulting him. And Abu Bakr, he didn't say anything back immediately to the guy. He was tolerating. The guy was insulting him, pointing in his face, shouting at him. And the Prophet sat there smiling, admiring Abu Bakr's tolerance, his patience, right? His high moral excellence, right? You see these hashtag black excellence. How about moral excellence? How about that? Hashtag that. Moral excellence. And then when Abu Bakr was pushed to his limit, he couldn't take it anymore. He began to respond back to the individual in the same way. And the Prophet got up and walked away. The consequences of Abu Bakr's behavior is that it was transference of negative energy. You allowed somebody to come into your space, insult you, and you actually became just like the person you detested so much. Don't allow environments, people to make you become just like them. You have to learn to resist. This is part of your refinement process. And this is why the Prophet was smiling at Abu Bakr, because he was amazed at his ability to resist. But human beings, we all have a threshold. And he was pushed to his limit and he began to respond back. The Prophet got up and walked away. Abu Bakr chased him down and he asked him, he said, "Why is it when the guy was insulting me, you sat there, you smiled, you didn't say anything, but the moment I got up and walked away, the moment I responded back, you got up and walked away?" The Prophet said, because when you were silent while the person was insulting you, Allah sent an angel who was there defending you. You didn't have to say anything. It's shaitan that tells you, oh, you going to let them get away with that? You going to let them say that to you? You're not going to say nothing back? You going to let them punk you? And then you go back and you become exactly like the person that was insulting you. It's called transference of negative energy. You allow this person, sometimes our spouses do the same thing. You're having a great day. Your spouse comes home with that negative energy, come right into your space. You have to say, you know what? You on one. I'm not going down that road with you. I need to block you out of my space. Go where you need to go and, rectify whatever, because the source of that is not me. So wherever that came from, you got to go back to that space. You got to go handle that and then come back into my space, and then we can have healthy interaction. I can't allow you, I'm working on me. I can't allow you to compromise that. You guys following me? All right, so the Prophet ﷺ, he said to Abu Bakr, when you were silent and you weren't saying anything to him, Allah sent an angel and the angel was defending you. He said, but when you responded back, I got up and walked away because the angel left and a devil came. The shaitan came, and I don't sit with devils. I don't sit with the shaitan. So I got up and I walked away. Understand how that negative energy, it breeds negative energy. Hurt people. Trauma, right, produces trauma. Take yourself out of that situation. Trauma breeds trauma. It becomes a dysfunctional situation. So you can't allow that negative energy in. All right? So there are instructions in our religion to resist the evil that is around us so that it doesn't infringe on our self-growth and development. So as you begin your journey to refine yourself and your character, you have to know that you can no longer engage the world and the people in it the way that they do. This is part of the crux of what I'm talking about here. See, some of us, we begin our journey to self-refinement and evolution, but we still want to stay in the same spaces with the same people who have yet to begin their journey. And as long as you do that, your relationships become toxic because you are coming into their space with an energy that they are not used to. And so rather than change themselves because how you make them feel, they would rather change you because how you make them feel. You understand? Oh, real talk. Real talk. Right? I mean, the thing is that when you're around good people and you see people making changes, they should have an impact on you. Right? The Prophet ﷺ said, "Al-mu'min mir'atun lil-mu'min." The believer is a mirror to another believer. I mirror to you all of your imperfections. And you should welcome that. Sometimes you're around someone, you slacking off in your sunnah prayers or whatever, and you're at somebody's house and you pray Maghrib or you pray Isha and they get up and they make your sunnah. You're like, man, I need to get back on my sunnah prayers. Like, this person just showed me some of the deficiencies that I have in myself. But sometimes what people do is they'll hate you for trying to be on your journey. And rather than change themselves because of how you made them feel, they rather change you because of how you made them feel. I mean, really. And I think sometimes, what we witness in many of the verses in the Quran that praise Prophet Muhammad's character, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, innaka la'ala khuluqin azim, indeed you are on an exalted standard of character, and all of the other narrations that capture his astute interactions with his community, both Muslims and non-Muslims alike, is the end result of a man who spent a substantial amount of time focusing on himself. The focus was him, self-centered. In a new context, self-centered. Meaning, my journey is about me. Stop being a passenger in your own journey to self-awareness. Letting other people dictate to you who you should be and who you shouldn't be. I think sometimes we like the storybook version of Prophet Muhammad's life as if there was no real concerted effort on his part to produce the outcomes that we've fallen in love with in so many ahadith. This is why the Prophet got upset. One of his companions, I'm going to come to a conclusion here. One of the Prophet's companions, he said, Ya Rasulullah, lasna kahay'atik. We are not like you. Meaning, Allah granted you that position that you have with him because you're the Prophet. And his face became red and upset because that's completely dismissive of my own personal effort. So you're saying that God just gave me this position because I'm a prophet? I didn't work for it? He said, Inni wallahi la atqakum wa akhshakum lillah. I fear God more than any of you. I didn't get this position because God just decided to give it to me. We're talking about a man who used to wake up in the middle of the night and pray until his feet would bleed. And when Aisha asked him, why do you do it? You don't have to do this. Allah has forgiven you for your past and your future sins. You don't have to exert yourself like this. His response was, Afala akunu abdin shakura. Shouldn't I be a grateful servant? Meaning, because Allah has done that, to whom much is given, much is required. Shouldn't I do more? Not less? We're talking about a man who used to pray all night until his feet would bleed. We're talking about a man who used to fast consecutively without breaking it. And although he prohibited us from doing it, he used to do it himself. We're talking about a man who used to survive off of dates and water for months by choice. By choice. Right? And he would use his status with Allah to elevate the companions that were around him. He didn't just want it for himself. He said to one of his companions, Rabi'a ibn Ka'b, he said, Salni urtik, ask me for anything and I'll give it to you. Rabi'a said, give me a few, that's a heavy request. Give me some days, let me think about it. The Prophet saw him again, he said, Rabi'a, salni urtik, ask me for what you want and I'll give it to you. And Rabi'a said, I only want to be your companion in paradise. That's it. The Prophet said, you don't want anything else? Out of all the things I can go to God and ask him for you, the only thing you want is to be my companion in paradise? He used his position to help his companions. He said there will be 70,000 people that will enter into paradise. He said, without any punishment or any reckoning. One of the companions, Okasha, he said, O Messenger of Allah, make dua to Allah that I'm from amongst them. He said, you're from amongst them. Another man said, O Messenger of Allah, make dua that I'm from amongst them. He said, Okasha, beat you to it. It was only one slot. Allah was only going to answer my dua one time for that. He beat you to it. Sabaka biha okasha. He didn't just take his position as some of us, we like to look at ourselves as evolved, right? And we are now haughty and arrogant and better than this person and that person. No, use your position to help others get to where you got to. Show me the blueprint. And I'll take it from there. I don't need you to hold my hand. Just tell me how you did it. What were your steps? What did you begin to eliminate from your life? What did you begin to incorporate in your life? Show me the blueprint. But don't walk around with your head held high like, yeah, y'all still down there arguing and bickering over this. I'm here. MashaAllah, I've arrived. The Prophet ﷺ even used his position to help his companions to achieve the same status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Lastly, unfortunately, that the fact that many of us associate complacency with authenticity, we believe that the more that we stay the same, the more that we are somehow being true to ourselves, which is the biggest misconception about being true to yourself. Being authentically you means that you are able to envision the rawest sense of yourself, minus the mask, minus the layers, whether occupational, financial, we like to hide behind, my job, or I'm the president of this, I'm the CEO of this, and I'm this and I'm that. Minus the mask, minus the layers, minus the facade, minus the suppression, the submission to peer pressure, and accept that this is who you are. This is who you are. Right? Despite the fact that it conflicts with the way that others perceive you and the way that others expect you to be. Don't be somebody's expectation. Don't spend your entire life somebody's expectation of you. I expect you to be like this, so I'm going to conform to everybody's expectations of me. Meanwhile, I don't even know who the hell I am. Because I'm so busy trying to be what everybody else wants me to be. And this is the biggest danger in being in positions like an imam or student of knowledge. There's so many layers to the expectations that people have of you, that when you finally come to the realization, like, I don't even know who I am. You have Muslims who will say, I'm not African American, I'm just Muslim. It's like, my goodness, are you serious? And as funny as that may be, I was one of the ones who used to say that. Had no clue who in the world I was. We convert to Islam, come into the religion, you're wearing the Pakistani suit, you're wearing the thobe from the Saudi Arabia, you tried the African thing, you know, and then at the end of all of that, you start to look at yourself and say, well, who am I? I'm so busy trying to be what everybody else wants me to be. Who am I? And learning how to stand in that authentic space. Yeah. And your real journey starts when you realize that you can no longer remain where you are. When you realize that you cannot stay in this space where you are right now, that's when your journey starts. And I'll end with one of the probably deepest quotes as it relates to this. Our deepest fear is what? It's not that we are inadequate, but our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us the most. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? We start to think like that, right? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God, and we have to put that in context. Obviously, this is not a Muslim who said this, all right? But you are a creature of God. You're one of God's many creatures, all right? Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. You understand? You shrink so you don't make other people feel uncomfortable. What about how you feel? Self-centered. We are all meant to shine as children do. We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. You understand? That when you stand in your authentic space and you are, other people look at you and say, you just gave me permission to do the same thing. You just gave me permission to do the same thing. All right? And as we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So just as I always like to be solution-oriented, some of the things that you guys can do, or we can all do to begin our process. Number one, envision your rawest sense of self. Minus the facade, minus the makeup, minus all of the friends that we define ourselves through, minus everything that we use to define who we are. Get to the raw essence of who you are and identify that. See that, who that person is. The Prophet one time, he asked his companions, he said, when Allah gives you victory over Rome and Persia, Ayyukum and Antum, what type of people will you become? Envision yourself. See yourself in who you really are. Number one. Number two, own who you are, flaws and all. I am who I am. You don't have to make excuses for who you are when you are who you are, because you are never trying to be anyone other than who you are. You don't have to make excuses, because I wasn't trying to be anybody else anyway. I am who I am. Own it. Own it. Number three, allow the process of elimination to take its rightful place in your journey. We start chasing after people that begin disappearing from our lives. Why haven't I heard from this person? Perhaps because Allah is making room for other people. They say relationships are like glass. Bad relationships are like glass. Better to leave the glass on the floor broken than to go back and pick it up and cut yourself. Sometimes leave them where they are. They don't call you, they don't text you, they don't come by and see you. Good. Sometimes we pay to get people out of our lives. You loan a person $100, $200, they don't pay you back, you haven't heard from them. You just pay to get the person out of your life. Don't go back asking them for your money back. Because when they pay you back, they're back in your life. I mean, it just makes complete sense. You just paid to get the person out of your life. And if all $100 did was get you out of my life, you don't deserve a space in my life. If that's all you were worth is $100, you burnt me for $100? Keep it. Because I just paid to get you out of my life. So allow the process of elimination to take its rightful place in your journey. You are going to lose people. You can't take everybody with you because everybody is not on your journey. You're going to lose some people in your journey to self-discovery. In your journey to self-evolution, you are going to lose some people. And you have to be comfortable with that. Well, this is a person I grew up with. So what? Yeah. Well. Woo. That's a whole other discussion. Thank you. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, just to give you some reference, I have two more and I'm done. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said that al-arwah junud mujannada, souls are like conscripted, recruited soldiers. Those whom they have an affinity towards, they will connect and find each other. And those whom they do not get along, then they will not find each other. So along your journey to self-discovery, self-evolution, you are going to come into contact with people on every single level. And it's very rare that you keep the same friends throughout your entire journey. Very rare. Look at people who are at the top of their game, successful. They may have one or two friends that are just truly authentic friends. They don't have a whole group of people, right, around them. And people like Allen Iverson had to learn that the hard way. You taking 17 dudes from your hood to every hotel and you buying them dinner, putting them on a flight until the end of the road, you have much of nothing. All of those 17 people, where are they? Number 4, leave room for error. All of us are going to make mistakes. Stop beating yourself up. The first person that you should forgive is yourself. We always talk about forgiveness and forgiving other people. The first person that is deserving of your forgiveness is you. Forgive yourself. You are going to make mistakes. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Kullu bani Adam khatta'un, wa khayra khatta'ina tawwabun," that all of the children of Adam make mistakes. And the best of those who make a mistake are those who repent, who rectify their mistakes. I am a sinner. I make mistakes. We say, oh, he got mistakes. So do you. We all got it. But I am not defined by my mistakes. I'm defined by how I bounce back from my mistakes. That is where you define me. Don't define me by a mistake because we all have them. Lastly, implore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his assistance during your journey. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of the dua that come to my mind, Allahumma rahmataka arju, fala takilni ila nafsi tarafata ayn. وَأَصْلِحْ لِي شَأْنِي كُلَّ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ. Oh Allah, your mercy, oh God, your mercy is what I hope and I desire. Do not leave me alone to myself, not even for the time that it takes to blink your eye. وَأَصْلِحْ لِي شَأْنِي كُلَّ, and rectify all of my affairs. لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ, nothing worthy of worship except you. Implore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to assist you along your journey, as there is no greater nasir, there's no greater helper, there's no greater aid than God, who created you, who gave you all of the tasks and gave you the journey that you are on to become the best version of yourself. Allah doesn't want you to meet him how you are right now. Every day that Allah gives you life is another opportunity for you to become the best version of yourself so that you meet God in the best state of yourself. You think Allah wants us to meet him? Oh, make dua for me. I'm doing bad right now. You think Allah wants you to meet him like that? So we pray that, inshallah ta'ala, that this was a benefit. I pray that each and every one of us, we begin at some point on our journey. If you have already begun, then, glad tidings. And I hope that you reach your destination. And for those of us who sit and have this thought that complacency equals authenticity, I hope today has changed your mind about that. Don't let anybody else make you believe that the more you stay the same, the more true to yourself you are. There can be nothing further from the truth. And you guys have been great. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.